I've learned a lot in my 57 years about money. And so I want to talk to you about 5 things, and these are not by all means the only 5 things. I might even make a second video on it, okay, that deals with debt. I think the budget is the last place you should start. And again, I'm speaking from experience. I've never actually started with budgeting. We're taught that if you want to get out of debt, what's the first thing everybody looks at is the budget, and I don't think that is. So I hope you'll stick around with me for this chat. All right, so these are not in any particular order of importance, because to me they're all important, but I did try to give it some order just to help you kind of follow along, okay? So first thing about achieving debt freedom, if that is your goal for 2025, or even if you're not going to be totally debt free, you at least want to get your budget under control so you feel like you can breathe, all right? The first thing is that it actually, these again are all my opinions, okay? It doesn't begin with a budget. A lot of people think that debt freedom begins with a budget. I think this is where there's a lot of misguidedness going on, and I'll tell you why. When I was younger, okay, and I was in my 20s, I had a lot of mental illness going on, which I'm not going to really discuss. Maybe when I'm in my 60s after I retire and stuff, I'll write a book on it, okay? But for the purposes of this, all you need to know is that, I suffered from a lot of mental illness. And it's cool because today, even as a teacher in my 19th year of teaching, we now even discuss mental health and stuff in the classroom. Whereas when I was growing up, that was never going to be discussed. Okay, because keep in mind, again, I'm 57. So mental health was not something that was greatly discussed or valued. And so I was always told, if you're going to have a budget, if you're going to get out of debt, you must have a budget. But if you don't have the mental capacity, in other words, you are not mentally able to deal with the budget, then how can you ever have a budget? I hope that makes sense, okay? Budgeting, good budgets are for people who are mentally healthy. Good budgeting does not exist with people who do not have mental health. And I can kind of prove it because I do a lot of commentary on Dave Ramsey. And it is my belief that a lot of the people on Dave Ramsey actually have undiagnosed mental health issues, whether it's because they're dealing with a gambling or an alcohol addiction. These are all mental health issues. And when the mental health is not there, telling me to sit down and create a wonderful budget means absolutely nothing. So thinking that you are going to be able to, whether it's you being single, like I was single, and then I was in and out of relationships in my 20s and 30s, okay? So whether you are single or whether you are in a relationship with somebody, if you are suffering from any sort of addiction or mental health issues, I don't believe you can achieve debt freedom. I really don't. Or at least if you're able to achieve it, I don't think you can sustain it, because debt freedom, and I'm convinced of this, debt freedom is for the mentally healthy. The rest of us, such as myself, who are suffering from mental health issues, that debt freedom was the least of our concerns. All right, so 1. It does not begin with the budget, in my opinion. Instead, it begins with your state of mental health. All right, let's take a look at number 2. Debt freedom, and I touched on this at the intro, but I think it's really important that people understand it. Debt freedom is not a New Year's resolution. No, it's not. Debt freedom has no particular day, season, month, event, time period in your life that you're going to achieve it. To me, the best debt freedom actually just kind of, or the journey to debt freedom, I should say, it just kind of starts. It just begins. As a matter of fact, it gets woven into your life almost in a sneaky way. It's a series of events that brings you to a conclusion that you don't want to be broke anymore. that you don't like, checking the bank account and seeing that you have 25 cents in there. And yes, I've lived like that for many years. In fact, it's only been in the last 9 years since I've been divorced that I can honestly tell you that I believe that debt freedom was even in my vocabulary. Yeah, for a lot of people, it's not even a vocabulary word that they know. I didn't know it. I had never heard the term debt freedom. Okay, maybe that's a Dave Ramsey thing that he's, coined that phrase. I couldn't tell you where I first heard it. All I know is that debt freedom just kind of showed up. That's my Lancome. Okay, I'm a big Lancome fan. But debt freedom isn't something that, okay, it starts on January 1st, 2025, which would be tomorrow. Or, okay, it starts on my 25th birthday. It starts on the first day that I got divorced. It doesn't work that way. It's like exercising. I've been exercising since I was 27 years old. If somebody said to me, Carrie, can you tell me the day, the time, the year, the exact point you started exercising? No, I cannot. I can give you maybe an overall motivation. Okay, I'd had a hysterectomy at 27, and I quickly realized that having lost most of my hormones, okay, because I had a complete hysterectomy. A complete hysterectomy is where they take out the ovaries and the uterus, and so it can really, really change your hormones. And I quickly realized, man, if I don't start exercising or doing something, I'm going to lose, physical control of my body, as far as weight gain and stuff. And so I decided to start exercising. And I've been doing it ever since I was 27. So figure about 30 years. And in those 30 years, I probably haven't missed more than maybe 2 weeks. That's it. And why did I miss those 2 weeks? I missed them because I got surgery. I got knee surgery. Those are the only reasons I actually have ever missed exercising. Otherwise, I might miss a week here and there because, you get the flu and stuff and you can't really exercise, nor is it smart to be in a social setting at a gym when you're sick. So, but otherwise, I don't skip exercising. It's my thing, okay? Matter of fact, this used to be a fitness channel I know some people like Dewey and Mr. D and Parley. They've been around since this was a fitness channel. They're some of my long time much loved and admired viewers here. But this used to be an exercise channel, and I'm still huge into the gym. Okay. But I couldn't tell you other than, okay, my hysterectomy was kind of the impetus for it, but I can't give you exact date and time, nor should I be able to. It just kind of fit in. It's the same thing, folks, with money. If you can give me the exact date, time, and hour, that's kind of concerning. Because it's telling me, and I'm not saying it doesn't work for some people. I'm sure there's someone out there that's been very successful that could say, and I started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on such and such date. Okay, I get it. Okay, but I'm going to say the majority of people, it's got to just fit into your life. It can't be a resolution. It has to be something that you buy into naturally. You buy into it over time. You believe in it. Okay, it's not something that starts on a certain day, a certain week, a certain hour. So it's not a New Year's resolution. And again, these are just my opinions, but it might help you. Number 3, tip number 3, if you want to achieve debt freedom in 2025, I've got another mirror down here, or at least, try to get to the point where you feel like you're under control with your budget. Something else you need to do, you need to ask yourself, are you capable of change? In other words, I've done some TikTok videos on budgets, and yes, there is another TikTok video coming up later today on this channel, okay? Hence why I'm doing all of this, okay? But are you capable of changing? Are you in a mental mind frame where you're like, you know what? I'm ready to give up the pleasures and the luxuries of life that I've had. Are you ready to actually look at your budget and go, you know what? This goes beyond just simply fewer meals out. Because, a lot of budgets, they'll say, well, just, cut out your Starbucks and have one less cookie at, every Friday or whatnot. You need to think bigger than that. You got to think deeper. You got to think, where are you living? Can you afford the rent there? Can you afford the mortgage there? We've done some videos on this, family, have we not? On this channel, have we not, family, about people who are living in luxury places or luxury housing, whatever. That's too much. Are you willing, able, and capable to pack up and move if you know that move is going to benefit you financially? Can you actually do that? Because there are people who will scream, oh, I want to be debt free and stuff, or I want to get my budget under control. And then the minute somebody says to them, okay, great, go ahead and do it. I need you to move out of your apartment at the end of your lease, and I need you to pick something less expensive. Perhaps go for, if you're single, okay, it's easier to do if you're single, or even if you just have two people but no kids, which is kind of my perspective because I don't have any children, okay? But are you willing to say, you know what, this $1,300 a month apartment is too much for me, and I am aware that's a dream price in some cities, but stay with me here, okay? And I'm willing to look for a room or a garage that I can rent if it means I can cut my rental cost in half. True story. I know someone who had multiple opportunities to be able to do this, to actually get out of their, hold your breath, $1,700 a month apartment, 840 square feet, exact same size as this little condo of mine behind me that I purchased in 2020 for $100K and is now paid off, okay? Because I bought way under my means. She never watches this channel ever, okay? Trust me on this. She actually had multiple opportunities to get out of paying $1,700 a month rent. And that included downsizing into a smaller place. Hey, you know what? Maybe 840 square feet is too much for you as a single person right now. Maybe you need to go to 500 square feet. Maybe instead of the one-bedroom apartment, maybe you need to go into a studio. Instead of living in a studio, even maybe you can just rent a spare room in someone's house. She actually had almost all of these opportunities that would have cut her rent in half. And I'm not talking years ago. I'm talking like last year, okay? She actually had the opportunity to do all that, and she chose not to. So to this day, she is still paying around $1,700. I got hair on me. She's paying around $1,700 a month rent. $1,700 a month. And that does not include things like your electric, your cable, water, yada, yada. There are people who claim that they would really, really like to improve their budget in 2025. And I guarantee you there are people like her who are going, yes, I'd like to spend less, but I'm really not interested in making any changes. If you are not willing to make any changes in your lifestyle, then a budget is totally worthless, which is why I say to you, to the court, the budget is not the starting point of achieving debt freedom. It's not the budget. It's your willingness. It's your frame of mind. So if you don't have the frame of mind where you're willing to sacrifice anything, then what good is a budget? You see, it's if you think of money like a game, all right, you are taught that it's the budget that starts first. That's the first playing card. That's what you're taught. But that's actually not the first playing card. In my opinion, it's the last playing card. The first playing card is your mental frame of mind. It's understanding that it's not a New Year's resolution, but it's really budgeting, good budgeting. It's woven into the fabric of your life. And it's also, of course, point number 3 being how adaptable are you? Also, a thing about being adaptable, are you willing to take on a part-time job? Are you willing to look at the hours that you actually work? And are you willing, now this is going to be a challenge here, guys. I'm not as good as this makeup stuff and all, this is all new to me, but it's fun. I have to be honest. But are you willing to do extra work? Now, if you listen to the Ramsey show, and I do a lot of Dave Ramsey on here, okay? Matter of fact, I always like to say this channel was founded on Mr. Ramsey. Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. All right? I mean, obviously I do TikTok and stuff too now. But are you adaptable in that you are willing to do whatever it takes? I mean, as long as it's legal, okay? Legal, safe, okay? Common sense stuff. I, again, know the same person who, like I said, never watches this channel, all right? And she had the opportunity to work a little part-time job. I'm talking a little part-time job, nothing hard, put on an apron, greet some people at the mall, some customers at the mall, stand on your feet, look pretty, say hi. Can I help you with anything? I won't mention what store to keep her anonymous and all of that stuff. Okay. Actually had the opportunity to do it. Then she had to stop after she put in her application. Why did she have to stop? because she had some personal stuff going on and needed to solve that. And that's all I'm going to say. But then when that crisis was over and the crisis did end, okay, on a positive note and all of that, did she go back to the job application, to the store that she had applied at? No. She used the personal crises to basically say, oh, well, you know what, I'm just going to forget about this part-time job. So she never went back and finished the application. And I guarantee it to you, they would have hired her. Because, at the mall and stuff, folks, there are lots of stores that are like desperate for, minimum wage employees. And she just kind of said, nah, she's not interested. And it's not going to surprise you, perhaps if you're older or if you're younger and you're just really highly observant, it probably won't surprise you that this is a typical pattern of hers. You probably know people like that. There are people who are literally just looking for excuses not to do something, and she's just one of those people. So she doesn't want to adapt. Her routine is, I get up out of bed, I go to work, I come home, I crash on the couch by 6 p.m. and I don't move. Well, if that is if that's the maximum you're willing to work because you can't adapt to anything, then I don't think that being debt-free and a debt-free budget is going to be the right thing for you. I don't think you're ready for it yet. How are the eyes looking? Let's look at number 4. Just because you can afford something does not mean you can actually afford it. Let me repeat that. Number 4, just because you can afford something doesn't mean you can actually afford it. Doesn't mean you can actually afford it. So what do I mean? Well, let's take myself just as a case in point. Okay. I live way beneath my means. All right. Oh, and I'm happy to say my car got paid off on time. Thank you, Jesus. So Crimson, my Toyota Corolla hybrid that I bought this spring, is now officially paid off. Yay. Yay. Okay. I had a whopping total of 9 payments on the car because I saved for part of the car first, right? I saved part of the money first. And so I had I think it was around $7,000 I had already for the car. The car was $26,000 total. That was everything total. And then I just paid the rest over 9 months. Now then, I bought a car that was highly affordable and that cost me about $10 a week in gas. The battery, because it's a hybrid, is insured for the next 10 years. I will give up the car before the 10 years is up. In year 9, I will give up the car, which is 2 years before I retire from teaching. Knock on wood, I make it that long, okay? I could have, however, easily gotten a luxury car. Very easily, in fact. I have I only make about $63,000 a year, but when you have, no credit card debt, you have no mortgage. I do have a $455 a month HOA, all right? I do deal with that. And I think we have a $100 a month assessment for this year. So that's actually $555, okay, for 2025, because we have to keep up on all the Florida condo laws and stuff. But so figure 555 is my HOA, okay, which it technically is. I could have gotten a car that was much more expensive. And I'm talking, it could have been a luxury car. And believe it or not, I could have done it and I wouldn't have even suffered all that much from it. I could be sitting in a vehicle that cost me, $700-800 a month. We've done a lot of videos on that, right? Have we not? Oh, what is this that I'm wearing here? Oh, it's something called Palladio. Lip stain. I could have easily gotten that and found myself in a car payment for the next 5-6 years, paying $700-800 a month. And here's the thing, I could have actually pulled it off because I have the excess money. My actual cost of living is I live on about 40% of my budget. So if you take my take home, I live on about 40%, because my goal over the next 10 years is to just put massive amounts into retirement, because I want a couple $100,000 in cash. I'd have liked to have had more, but hey, life is what it is, right? Better to start than to never have gotten started. But I want to have a couple $100,000 in cash to go into an annuity that pays out for the rest of my life. Plus, I'll have my teacher's pension, which I'm ending my 19th year in, so that's good. Plus, I'll have Social Security, whatever we'll have of that, okay? just because I could afford a more expensive car, just because I could have afforded a much nicer condo, I could have gone up twice. I could have gone a $200,000 condo. And again, keep in mind, this was in 2020. So what $200,000 would get me in 2020 versus now? You got to think back then. Okay. So I could have easily gotten a $200,000 condo. I could be driving a nicer car, way nicer than the Toyota Corolla. And for those who may not know, one of Toyota's biggest complaints from the car enthusiasts is it's a boring car. Well, I'll tell you this. I didn't lose 1 ounce of sleep paying that car off in 9 months. Not 1 ounce of sleep. I have slept like a log, and now I sleep even better now that the car is all paid off, and the DMV is sending me my title by email. Matter of fact, I think it's already in my email box. So, just because you can afford something doesn't mean you can actually afford it if the excess money that it's giving you, right? The excess money that you have left over after you've afforded that big ticket item or whatnot, if that's going to keep you awake at night, you can't actually afford it. If it's going to be a payment that repeats over and over and over again, you can't actually afford it. I think my computer, I thought we had a power outage there for a minute. My screen just went off. So you can't actually afford it. So that's something to just think about. You know, people will sit and they'll go, oh, but I can pull off this trip. Okay. I've talked on this channel before about going home to Oregon because I go home at various times during the year. I go once a year. I should say at various times, but I go once a year. It might not always be at the same time, but I do go to Oregon each year. But I didn't go to Oregon to go see my parents every single year until I got myself debt free. I didn't do it because there was no way I could afford it. Yes, I could afford it if I didn't want to achieve debt freedom. Remember this, there are lots of things, people, you can do if you are not interested in controlling your credit card debt, if you are not interested, where is my lip gloss? If you are not interested in controlling your credit card debt, if you're not interested in controlling, your budget and having nights where you can actually sleep. So the fifth one, and it's the final one at least for today's video. And this is a tough one, so we're just going to speak really honestly, okay? Really honestly. You're trying to be debt-free. You're doing all the things like, making sure you're mentally healthy. You're making sure that you understand that your budget is only as good as your state of mind. The state of mind is first, all right? You're willing to make all these adjustments. You're willing to say, hey, I will delay this trip. I'm going to cut down doing these weekly or monthly activities that are really, hurting my budget. You understand that just because you have the money to do something, you understand that it doesn't necessarily mean you can do it because the money it's going to leave you at the end of the month is going to make you feel tight. It's going to give you sleepless nights. But there's one last thing, at least for the purpose of this video, that I think may outrank them all. And I'm only saying this because of my experience and listening to all the Dave Ramsey calls and everything else that I can think of. Number 5, who can potentially sabotage your dreams of financial freedom? Now, this one's a tough one because I don't want it to be a blame game, okay? But if you've been listening to this channel for a while and you've been listening to my commentary on the Dave Ramsey shows, and you've been listening to my comments about, these, oftentimes the caller that's calling in is what we would perhaps term as the victim, okay? Oftentimes we'll say the caller, let's just, for all intents and purposes, for the most part, it's the victim that's calling in. And when I say victim, I'm talking about it's the person that's dealing with the gambleaholic. It's the innocent person that's dealing with the shopaholic, which I was for almost a decade, okay? Extreme shopaholic. It's the person dealing with the spendthrift, the person who, the YOLO, you only live once, the person who doesn't give a rip if they go out, buy a new car, and cost the household $500 that they didn't, have a budget for. Yes, I've been in that relationship too, okay? I won't state which one, but I've been in it. Well, you have to take a real honest look, family. Who do you associate with that directly or indirectly could sabotage your budget? And what I mean by directly, I'm talking about who are you married to, living with, share bank accounts with, you're under the same roof with, you're in a court order with, okay? That could potentially sabotage your budget. When I say court order, I'm talking like, and we've all seen it on YouTube, folks, okay? Somebody's always dragging someone else to court because that person made an extra $10 in their paycheck and somebody else wants it. In other words, you need to take an honest look, an honest assessment at who in your life could potentially sabotage your budget. Because you have to understand something. Your desire for debt freedom isn't necessarily everyone else's desire that you're living with. Now then, I'm not talking about children. Okay, children. That's not what I'm thinking of. Not even a little bit. So keep that out. I'm talking about the adult that you are married to in a relationship with. Or even if you're not in a relationship with someone, perhaps, your BFFs that, you have built a relationship with over the years, can you afford to keep up with them? In other words, it doesn't matter if you are single or in a relationship. Are you trying to keep up with the Joneses? What's the price you are going to have to feel as though you're paying because you can't keep up with them anymore? Who is out to sabotage your budget? I will tell you this. I've been in 2 relationships. Okay. And I guarantee it to you, they were not interested in a debt-free lifestyle. Not even a little bit. They were not interested in a debt-free lifestyle. That's sabotaging your budget. Now, can I hold them completely responsible for it? When I was, married or, in other relationships? No, because I was unfamiliar myself. I myself was unfamiliar with the word debt freedom. I really didn't understand it. Okay. Matter of fact, I can honestly tell you, I never really even heard of it. I had never really been introduced to the word debt freedom. I didn't even know it existed. And to somebody who's perhaps been really, has been raised really well, to understand money and stuff beyond just, and what was in this 80s? We understood how to balance a checkbook, and that was considered financial literacy, when that's the furthest thing from it. But we have to remember that, at least at my age, my parents and grandparents, especially my grandparents, guys, they didn't live a credit card lifestyle. The credit card lifestyle that we see today, this is all relatively new to the Gen X's, which is me. I was like one of the first generations where credit cards were really being promoted. Not my grandparents. My grandparents, matter of fact, I don't think I ever saw my grandmother use a credit card, and my mother, it was limited. Think of the ages. But now you have the millennials, highly advanced on credit cards. Gen Zs, it's like they were born with one in their hand, and we're not even going to get into the alphas, because not only are they understand credit cards, they understand how to use an iPad about 18 months out of the womb, okay? So you have to think, not that I'm making an excuse for it, okay? I'm not making excuses, but part of the reason I believe in hindsight that I lacked financial credit card literacy is I wasn't raised with people who were on it. But now let's say today, okay, you're a Gen Zer, right? And your mother or father, okay, is an older millennial, okay, or even a millennial like I am, because a Gen X like me, because I understand credit cards now, okay? We can teach these things to you. Again, I'm not making excuses as to my credit card failures and stuff, okay? But it is just simply a fact of life. So you have to ask yourself, who potentially can sabotage your budget? Not everybody, and it may be some of the people you least think, they're not all interested in the debt freedom and, happy financial lifestyle that you may be interested in. And we know this, again, from the numerous calls that I've heard where, one spouse is like, I really, really want to get free. And the other person's like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I want my fun stuff. I want my car. I want my nice house. I don't want to work an extra job. But you've got one spouse going, I really want to get out of debt. On a final note, I guarantee it to you that had my ex not left me, okay, and I am happy to say my shopping addiction had nothing to do with it. I was long over the shopping addiction by then. That was in my 20s and was pretty much gone by the time I hit 32, 33, right around there. So I'm 57 now, so you can do the math on that. I've been shopping addiction sober and clean, okay, for a couple decades now. But I guarantee to you I would not be sitting in this financial position. And I'm not rich by any means. I mean, look behind me here. Okay, most of the time I cover it with a green screen or whatever. Okay, but my living is very modest. But I do know that had he not left me, I would still be struggling financially. Now, I don't want you to misinterpret and think, oh, well, you're just saying that because you got dumped. No. I'm mature enough and old enough, and it's been 9 years. I can look beyond that, and I can look at it really honestly. Okay? The way we lived our financial lifestyle, the lack of financial communication, the lack of financial discussion in our household. All right? No, I would not be in the financial position. I would not. It's just got to live with that. I would not be in the financial position that I am today. It is better to live more modestly, okay, in my opinion, and even look a little more broke than you actually are than it is to try to keep up with the Joneses. So, folks, I'm all done. I'm ready to film my TikTok. I hope you enjoyed this little makeup thing. This was actually kind of fun, It's like sitting here and having a little, chit-chat with you guys. But those are the 5 things, and let me just go over them real fast again. The first one is, don't think that, becoming debt-free begins with a budget. It doesn't. It begins with the frame of mind. The second thing is budgeting and getting out of debt, achieving debt freedom. It's not a New Year's resolution. Instead, it's buying into a way of life. It should fit seamlessly into your life plan. It's not a date. It's not a time. It's not an hour. Just like fitness, is, whether you go to a gym or not. All right. 3, are you capable and are you willing to step up to the plate? Are you capable and are you willing to do what it takes? That means you're going to have to walk through 2 years of hell of working a full and a part-time job to get the job done. Are you willing to do it? 4, just because you can buy something doesn't mean you should. It does not mean you can afford it. What it might actually mean is that you are stretching your budget so far that after you're done renting that, leasing that, buying that, you find you have no money left. Okay, so just because you can squeeze it in the budget doesn't mean you should. And then the final, at least for the purpose of this video, is who can sabotage your plans. And that is probably the one that is going to be the most difficult to take a hard look at. And I want to also add in, folks, for any of my viewers, listeners, for myself, I don't want you or myself to be the person that's 60, 70 years old. Heck, let's just back it up to 60. Let's back it up to 50 and say, I have absolutely nothing for retirement. I have no plan. I have nothing. I have no pension. I have no savings. I haven't worked much. I don't have any social security. You have nothing. I don't want that for my audience, and I know I certainly don't want it for myself. So if these 5 tips helped you, hey, I'm so glad. All right, folks. It's time to film the TikTok. I will upload the TikTok later, and I will go ahead and upload this right now. What time is it? It's hitting almost 12 o'clock on New Year's Eve day. Thanks for joining me, you guys. Stay safe out there this evening. And, of course, as always, never, ever, ever drink and drive. That's my PSA. All right. Time to film the TikTok. I'll see you guys later today. Bye.